All right. Thank you very much, Ido, and good afternoon, everyone. I feel very happy to be here in TILES 2020. And this opportunity came to me as a surprise when I got the call. I was like really interested to share some new ideas that have been forming since the last, I think more than 6 months. I think, yeah, more than 6 months we have been teaching online because of the, lockdown due to the pandemic and all. So I teach at a university in Bangladesh. It's at the heart of the country, and it's a private university. The name of the university where I work in as an assistant professor, the Department of English is University of Asia Pacific, Dhaka, Bangladesh. And so what actually happened is that when the lockdown actually happened, what we were actually continuing with one particular course that we call ELPC, like English Language Proficiency course for the undergraduate students. And I was the coordinator of the course, and I was helping all the other teachers, as well as I was one of the instructors in that particular course. So all on a sudden, like within a few days we had to excuse me, we had to shift online, and we had to start classes online, and from the face-to-face classes exactly towards the flipped mode of online classes. So that was the first thing that I experienced, and then I started planning how I can make it more effective and all. So there were like around 800, I think more than 800 students over there in different batches. So we planned ahead like how we can have it. In the process, I was taking classes with actually two groups. So I chose one group of 30 students who actually could have worked in a project that I was planning, like so that we can see how it works in teaching online, and how they if they accept it or not, etc. So that was the beginning of the idea, and then I kept on continuing it over another semester, which is going on right now. That this was the background of my project, and the research that I'm working right now in. And so the topic that I'm going to talk about today is on the basis of that particular research, which is called Teaching EFL Online, Unveiling the Power of Collaborative Adaptation Projects. Now, the first thing that I would like to talk about is why adaptation, why collaboration. Obviously, we know that EFL, teaching face to face, since I teach in Asia, and like EFL is a very challenging area of teaching, because students really suffer even though they learn English for a long time, like in the very beginning of their life they're exposed to it, like when they're like around 6, they're officially introduced to it in school, and then they go ahead for 12 years in schooling, and then higher secondary. Even after that, they are not efficient in speaking or in writing, or any other skills. I mean, if I talk about listening or reading. So the problem that actually is there is the interest that we find in students. The interest is very important. Like the students have to be really engaged, and that is the problem which I wanted to focus on. And of course, we want our students to be critical thinkers, as well as creative writers. And of course, because to be efficient in the language skills, you need to have all those abilities. And one very interesting way that I found was designing an adaptation, collaborative adaptation project. So before I begin, of course, I would like to focus on one particular thing, that is the concept of adaptation. So adaptation means, of course, it is connected to an activity where you use authentic materials, or maybe you can use literary materials or non-literary texts into, try to turn into another genre or medium. It can be a film, it can be a news, it can be a stage play or video, or even there are more sources or resources that you can use. So this was the idea that I took. So I took authentic material. I decided to take authentic material and take it as a resource, and make students turn it into a text. So that was the idea. Next one is like the thing is that why collaborative. Now of course, as we know that online teaching is very importantly difficult, because it needs more collaboration, because students need to be engaged. We don't want our students to be sleeping, right? And we really would like our students to get actively engaged and active learners. Face to face, this is very much possible in our context. So I wanted it to work in online contexts as well. So I went through a lot of research works, and I found that in EFL teaching nowadays, in the researches, it's been very, very, it's been highly appreciated. And I have shared a few research works here where, researchers have talked about the positive sides of, EFL teaching and collaborative projects importance. Like, of course, as you can see, Shehada in 2011, she actually talks about how collaborative work actually has become popular worldwide, because over the last 2 decades, because of its wonderful characteristics of engaging students. And then I read some research works by Lee and Zhu, and they also say that nowadays there is researchers in language teaching are interested, because it promotes critical thinking, as well as creative writing, and more of collaboration. And so I went through such kind of research works, and I found like collaborative writing projects can come handy in teaching online. And then if you look into some more research works, like Wiggleworth and Storch also highlighted about it, like how learners are very much interested in collaborative projects, and they learn the skills that they need for the workplaces, and like how they learn how to work in a group, or collaboration with others. And then I went through Christian Kumbe's research work, and then Bachone's and Ellis's work, like task-based language teaching by Ellis, and then Lantalf, and everyone. Like, I went through all those research works by Swine. Again, I found in Swine's project, he mentioned that collaborative projects can mediate the, construction of linguistic knowledge. Of course, this is connected to linguistic knowledge, which I'm going to show through my project how I found the positive sides. So, I'm not going into that too much. As you can see, these are the research works that I studied. There were some more, of course, but I didn't include everything here, because I had to go through a lot of research works and everything like that. Now, moving on. So finally, the advantages, since, like, when I wanted to merge both. So I wanted collaboration as well as adaptation all together. So I designed a collaborative adaptation project where students would be working all together to adapt texts, and adapt the authentic materials into texts. So why did I thought of bringing in, so the, if I kind of jot down the ideas, that I thought of, one very important thing was active learning. I wanted my learners to be really, really active and participating. Another, of course, aspect that I focused on was, uh, peer teaching, and of course peer learning. And peer learning, of course, is very, very important, because we want the Asian students, the students in Bangladesh, to be really, really adaptive to each other, and then of course learn how to help each other as peers. So this is another skill. Of course, that is the skill that I wanted them to develop. And of course, I had a project approach to this particular activity that I promoted over a semester or more. And I wanted also the learners to be autonomous learners. Now, of course, you all know that at present, autonomous learning has been, in the scene. We want our learners not to be only learners, but we want them to learn even after they are done with us, in a semester, or maybe in a project, or maybe in a course. So I wanted my learners to be autonomous learners, even they're done with me. And then, of course, I wanted to develop the critical thinking skills with my project in them. I wanted to instill the, critical thinking skills. Like, for example, I wanted to be adaptive and think more critically to others' views, and then assess their own views. So there are, of course, there are sub skills of critical thinking. And then I wanted to be very importantly interculturally aware. Now this is a very important question when it comes to our learners, especially in Asia. We want our learners to develop an intercultural environment and a mindset among them, so that they can actually adapt to different situations wherever in the world they go. And in the process, I wanted the end product, I wanted to be them to be creative in their writing, and as well as, I mean, in the process of going through the project, at the end I wanted them to be creative. My motto was to enhance creativity in them. Now, the thing is that, I mean, of course, and of course, this was learning through group activities. That was my design. Soon I'm going to talk about the design of my project. And of course, in the process, they would also develop their speaking skill, which is, which is a very, very, I would say, a difficult area to address in the context that where we work in Bangladesh, since we have like students who are really, really shy, come from, rural backgrounds, and of course, even like students coming from urban areas, they also lack the kind of interest in speaking in some cases, and we really have a hard time, making them adaptive to the situation, and develop, EFL, I mean, English language speaking skills. So this was a kind of an all-encompassing project that I wanted to design and then, engage the learners in. So now, okay, so, all right, okay, let me go to the next slide. All right, so in the process, of course, since I was focusing mostly on writing, but there were other skills I was addressing, I also wanted them to focus on, of course, coherence and cohesion in writing, which is again a very difficult, thing to I think it's kind of a very difficult concept to develop among students. So they will also learn how to sequence or conceptualizing and valuable inputs through the project. That was the motto. So I was trying to address all these kind of challenges that we face in teaching, EFL, and especially I'm talking about online. Right. So I also wanted to introduce the process of how to adapt the text and how to get a new text out of another one. So in a way, like since in the morning we also talked about recycling, so it's a kind of recycling, I would say, a text into another. And so what I thought is, like, I wanted to develop among the students, to narrow it down. I wanted to make the students learn how to write or how to produce news reports from the video clips, from news clips, the authentic material which I used. And that was the idea. So what I actually used in my project is that over these sessions, over the past few months, I used several news clips, and I wanted, those are of course that's authentic materials of which I actually, took from BBC News or maybe CNN, or of course like more authentic sources where I could find the news clips. And I used all those news clips with my students who were working in groups during the classes, and I divided them into small groups, and they were going into breakup rooms for a certain period of time in the class, and then they were working with these news clips, and the news clips I used were mostly on climate change, or maybe since we were going through the pandemic at that point of time, it was the topic on Vogue. So I also used a few news clips from like the pandemic. I mean, news on pandemic, or maybe related issues like social isolation, or maybe health issues. Or maybe a few maybe social connectivity, etc. Issues. And then I also went through some social awareness issues like gender and the biasness, and so cultural biasness. I mean, of course, in the last presentation we talked about cultural considerations. So I thought, like, to promote intercultural considerations and awareness among people, we can also use such news clips where you can see news regarding, like, for example, in the last few months, of course, we had a lot of discussion about the black thing going on, etc. And then again, I brought like news clips on equity or cultural events. Cultural events, I'm coming in a bit, which is another idea which I merged later in my research. So the main idea was that I was using news clips with different groups, and they were going into breakup rooms. They were watching news clips, and then they were asked to do the activity where they were do the activity in collaboration with their peers. So I hope you've got the idea. And all right, so let me go to the methodology that I used. Obviously, this was an action research, as I was talking about, as you can see, since I was like working with my own students in the class. Of course, since I was doing it online, so you can call it an online action research. I was using mixed methods. I used in my study qualitative as well as the quantitative methods. So I had 30 tertiary level Bangladeshi EFL learners. And then the research tool, as I told you, I used television news items. And later, when I finished with my study, I did a questionnaire survey with 20 items, and I assessed it on a Likert scale. And so the procedure of the study, the procedure that I used, as I just mentioned, in the of course in the section of the class where I was like working on this action research, I was I wanted I was going to different breakup rooms. Students were there with like 4 students in a group, and then I was going to different breakout rooms, and then I was showing them clips of the news reports, and then they were watching, of course, and they actually got introduced to the idea in the news reports. They were asking me questions, and obviously what I was to do is I was to give them an outline, ask them to outline a plan how they're going to give me a project based on this news item and make it a proper news report as if they are publishing in the newspaper. Yeah. And then so the students were given time to work collaboratively, speak to them. So there were like specific time for them to speak among each other, like for 5 minutes to plan, and then of course like after that after they plan, they actually jot down the ideas, and then of course they go they outline, and then they discuss, and of course they write about the different aspects of the news. So I wanted the students to talk first thing first, because they were thinking at the same time they were talking to each other in a peer group, and they were since they were discussing and they were planning. So in the process, I wanted the students to speak without any fear, without any inhibition, where no one is watching them, because they know only their peers are watching them. Maybe they're in a very small group, like 4 groups of 4. So they were not really concerned that the whole class is watching me, and then I might be judged because my speaking skill is not good. So I I wanted them to speak in a group. But of course, since I was teaching, I was there, I used to move around from one breakout room to another. I was like giving them input when they were speaking directly. So this was an engagement between me and the students. And obviously they wouldn't know that I was correcting them, because it was a very subtle way of correcting them and asking them, like, what did you say, like, did you say it right, think more, and then can you correct yourself like this. So I was giving them inputs regarding their project work, and they wouldn't know that they were developing their speaking skill in the same time. And then so what I used to do is, like, when they all come back from the breakout room, they all come back to the main room, and then they actually discuss with the with the whole class what they have talked or they have planned. And of course, I wanted them all together to work on the plan. And when they planned, I gave them this form to be filled, as you can see. So I had a few guidelines for them, as you can see from here, like, how they're going to write about the headline, for example. So I would give them the definition. Okay, so headline should be something that should be catchy, that should be, interesting, which should be like something that attracts your attention. And of course, it sums up the story. So they also have to think about how they are actually going to, summarize. And then, of course, it needs all plan. And then, of course, when you write, I mean, is it going to be your own write-up, or if you're working on a group, you will write all your names. And of course, you mentioned the event covered, and then the place line, like where the event took place. And then again, the lead, like, how would you write the opening section, give the most important information, of course, in the lead. And of course, your lead should answer the 5 W's. Now, what are the 5 W's? I hope you all know, like who, when, where, how, why, etc. Now, of course, this is very, very simple. I wanted them to be really feel confident and be simple in their write-ups. And I just wanted them to open up, because that's the main problem when when we ask our students to write something straight away. So I wanted them to open up through these kind of questions, which they discuss among each other. And then, of course, they will think about the body part of that news. And of course, they're not going to get too much of time and supplies. I mean, of course, they have to know that the body section of this particular report is going to supply detail. And then, as you know, they will ask, they will think about the organizing of the details and everything, which comes first, which comes next, and then after that, etc. And of course, they will look into the facts in the news clip when they actually are watching it. And last but not the least, of course, when they watch a video clip, since before that they get the form, they can actually find out which quotation is more important, who should they quote, and what is the most important quotation. So they kind of draw conclusions. When they are watching it, they actually are writing. They're very, very active when they're watching the video. They can't just watch it like idly and then sit around like that. And of course, they know that if you actually add the quotation, it has to be appropriate, and it has to be like, it has to add accuracy. So I give a little bit of discussion on that before this third. And of course, they have to understand that the quotation, if they add any quotation from the news clip, it will give a more at the scene feeling, like as if you were there. So this form is very, very focused towards making them really, really engaged. They can't go away without watching the clip just like that, as if they're sleeping over there. Mostly what happens is that, when you have a student and then the video is turned off, you think that, you don't know whether your student is actually listening to you online or not. And then this activity, they cannot go away without doing it, because I'm going to take feedback from them. All right. Yeah, getting bored, Johan? Yeah, okay, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, thank you. So of course, and then after that, of course, they actually submitted the project work, and it was not only one project work. There were several going on over the weeks, and like every hour we had like a few minutes for this project in the classroom, during the classroom. And then when they submitted the project works, I actually gave them the questionnaire after after a month actually. And then they filled up the questionnaire that I had. I can't show you the questionnaire because it's a little bit lengthy one. And I gave them a questionnaire where actually it was in the Google form, and they filled up the form where I asked them about their experiences and how they actually came up with this activity, how they found this activity. And I asked them like how they obviously it was an attitude study. And they came up with they had to self-assess themselves. So the questionnaire had a few sections where they were assessing themselves. And so the questionnaire was in a Likert scale. So they had like 20 items, and like there were open-ended as well as a few close-ended questions. So it was a semi-structured questionnaire. And then later I assessed it using SPSS as well as Google Forms and all. And so this is the findings of my study. To cut it brief, I didn't go for like the traditional mathematical representations. Yeah, I just wanted it to be very simple. So to cut it short and make it kind of make it a summary, 51% of the subjects, they actually mentioned that they can actually effectively write reports now because they feel really, really confident because they know the format, as well as they have got supports from their, peers. So they think that it's easier for them to organize if they write it in groups. But then again, they said like after doing it for quite a lot of times, they are like sufficient right now, and they can go ahead with this with writing any report that I give them. By watching a video clip or maybe a news clip wherever they watch it. And then it's 63.87% to 87% students, or of the subjects, of course, they felt more confident than before while writing. And 42.37% students, subjects, they mentioned that they can plan any writing activity before writing now because they have got wonderful, wonderful breakout room experiences, and they feel really, really enthusiastic. And more students said, okay, we can design now. We would like to design our own activity, and we would like to work on our own. So I think that actually reflects on, autonomous learning and all. So I was really happy to have them like, coming handy and help me through. And like they are really, really enthusiastic now to design activities for the future learners who will be doing the course again in future. So that was an interesting development I found. And then so 44.78% students, subjects mentioned that they understand now the difference and importance of drafting and then editing and writing. Since they were like drafting their report again and again in the group, and then everyone was giving their input, and then they were editing because every day we had like separate sections of the activity. One day they were planning, and the next day they were drafting. That was the first draft, and then the next one they were editing and going for the second draft. And then of course they were jotting down and then planning, and then they were organizing and shuffling and reorganizing the information and all. So it was an activity every day, a part of that the whole project. So yeah. And 29.55% subjects expressed that their critical thinking skills developed due to this project. Now, that is, I think, a very important improvement that they actually have assessed themselves through small activities which I gave them. And they came to know that they actually have critically more aware and more adaptive to other, views. And they can actually think really, really critically, obviously being really analyze a person who actually analyzes, a person who actually gives feedback based on others other views, and then taking into consideration own view and then coming up with a new idea. So that was, I think, a good observation from the subject expert, and of course I assessed them for having one or two activities. So that was the findings of my study so far and so forth. Now, if I may show you some sample project work, maybe. So one news that I used was actually a sample news clip used in the study, and that was from YouTube. It was a news clip on climate change, and it was from BBC. So if I may play it for you a little bit.
Ismat, just to let you know, we're not able to hear the audio for the video.
Oh, all right.
Okay,
Yeah. So, okay, no
that's
problem.
okay.
I think it's fine. I think you understand what it is about, maybe. And
Sure.
yeah. So, should I play it from YouTube itself, or I think it's fine? I think, yeah.
I
Okay, I
think
think
it's
I
fine
can.
like that. You can go ahead and proceed with your
Okay,
presentation.
okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. Yeah, so this was one of the clips that I took from BBC, and it was uploaded in YouTube, and then the students actually worked on this, and yeah, so it was an experience for them, and like they found it really engaging. Um, all right, okay. So going to the okay. All right, so next one that I would like to show is, oh goodness. All right. Okay. So this is an interesting one. This is a new idea that I'm also using right now, and this is writing a news from an online event. Now this is a very interesting online event that actually took place in our university. And then in this online event, I actually encouraged my students to participate in. So they participated in this event. It was basically a speech competition, an extempore speech competition. So the students actually were asked to join this particular Zoom event online. And interestingly, I wanted them to write a news report based on that collaboratively. So I divided them into small groups, and they knew who are there in their groups. So when they were watching, they were collaboratively working during the event. So they were in their breakout rooms when the Zoom event was going on. So they were really, really working. They were not only watching the event, and this event was for more for I think almost more than 1 hour, 1.5 hours and all. So they were supposed to write up an extensive report based on this online event, and they were divided into different breakout rooms, and they knew who their peers are. So they were working, and at the same time they were planning, they were quoting, they were writing the quotations, which ones to include, and etc. So as you can see, there are teachers, there are high authority officials, heads of the department, students are there. So, and the teachers, faculty members. I mean, this is just a very simple, view that, snapshot that I got from there. So they were like, these are the students who are actually working, as you can see. There are more snapshots if I could show, but I think that'd be too much now. Anyway, so, and then they wrote, in steps they were supposed to write and submit me the extensive news report. And so this is one sample that I can show from the report. This is one very simple, a sample report from that particular project. This is very short. This is a short one. That's why I could include it, but others were very big, and I had to cut them short and etc. So I think that was pretty much an idea that I got during the online classes, and like I found that this can be an option. Like we were having a lot of online events in my university, and there are others going on as well. So that could be another option to get them, get the students engaged in online classes and all, and really, improve their writing skill and all. So they really enjoyed this activity, which I did like with them as well. So I think, yeah, that should be, I think, all regarding my project. And these are the, researches that I used for my project and etc. I mean, in designing, and I took a lot of help from these references, and I was really, really enlightened with these research works. And then I was inspired to design. So yeah, so this is what I wanted to share about my project. And I think um, this is going to be, I'm planning to actually publish this as a research report, and I'm writing the research paper right now. I'm done with the literature review almost, but I'm not sure whether I need more or not, but I'm thinking more, and I'm working also on the findings more. Yeah, so yeah, I'm kind of I'm kind of planning to have a wonderful research paper on it. And yeah, so that's it. I think that should be all. So please.
Okay, sure. Okay, if there's
Right.
no other questions, I'd like to say thank you again for a great presentation. Everyone join me in thanking Ismat. Thank you. Okay,
You all are welcome.
no
Yeah.
problem.